this week. Brace yourselves for an Exim-ergency. That's Exim, like the mail server, MTA, emergency. We call it an Exim-ergency. Actually, the register called it that, and I thought it was kind of cute. Why Uber's in hot water. Firefox is trying to protect you. 1.7 million accounts were breached by a particular company this week. Bidding farewell to SMS authentication, which is a story that keeps haunting us, which is not really in there. There's other stories that we'll talk about. Anyway, it's a long story. We'll also talk about an open source name server, Moriah Botnet coming back, SAML post intrusion attack, and more, with an expert commentary by Michael Santarcangelo on hacking elections and all that kind of fun stuff. So stay tuned for this episode of Hack Naked News. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News.
Most of the organizations I work with, they have
released. Yes, you read it.
Actually do.
Encryption key to the original Linux kernel security with Linux kit.
So I hope everybody has their resistance built up.
Brought to you by. Make sure your team is prepared to fight off the latest cybersecurity threat. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team skills up to date. You can stream IT Pro TV's courses live and on demand worldwide, so there's no need to send staff to off-site training. Their team solution provides access to a supervisor portal for full control over your team's training schedule and group analytics. Go to itpro.tv/hacknaked and use the code HN30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Welcome, everyone, to Hack Naked News. This is episode 151, reporting for Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. Want to mention really quick that first, I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, and second, IT Pro TV has a team solution where your organization can sign up for an IT Pro subscription, not just for you, but for your entire organization, so everyone on your team, on other teams, can subscribe, can get access to all of the wonderful training resources at itpro.tv. Make sure you visit our fine friends at itpro.tv. Chris Martin steps into the enterprise security hot seat on a webcast with Logarithm to talk about their point of view on the threat landscape and security solutions today. This webcast is being held on Wednesday, December 13th, 2017 from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to securityweekly.com/logarithm to learn more. And now, the security news. This is that Exim-ergency that I talked about. There is a remote code execution and denial of service vulnerability. And Exim is apparently more popular than I thought. According to a November 2017 study by eSoft, Exim is by far the most popular MTA or mail transport agent on the internet, in use in nearly 57% even of MX servers as identified by the survey, or study rather. This means there's a lot of people who need to get patching, as one of these vulnerabilities was a remote code execution bug discovered and apparently publicly disclosed. The good news is that the following line in your Exim configuration file, which reads chunking _advertise _host equals. That's it. Nothing after the equals, just blank, will protect you in the meantime while a patch gets tested and released. Imgur has confirmed a 2014 breach of 1.7 million user accounts. What's interesting, well, data breaches are bad, but inevitable in today's world. And with 1.7 million records, well, they no longer belong to Imgur. And some interesting facts from Troy Hunt said that out of the 1.7 million passwords and email pairs he reported to Imgur last week, 60% of the passwords and email addresses were already in the haveibeenpwned.com repository. He also stated Imgur did a fantastic job with its response. Make sure you regularly check haveibeenpwned.com, the website, and see if any of your accounts have been leaked and change your passwords immediately. Or you can go on to our next story, which Firefox is going to warn users when you're visiting a pwned site. So you can just go and download the new version of Firefox when it's released. As the upcoming version, Mozilla developers revealed the organization's Firefox web browser will soon warn users if they visit sites that have experienced data breaches that led to user credentialed leak, in collaboration with, you guessed it, haveibeenpwned.com. How about that? A SAML post-injection attack mirrors the golden ticket attack. CyberArk researchers summed up the issue nicely when they stated, Golden SAML poses a serious risk because it allows attackers to fake an identity and forge authentication to any cloud application, whether it be in Azure, AWS, vSphere, or others, that support SAML authentication. Using this post-exploit technique, attackers can become any user they want to be with the highest privileges and gain approved federated access to the target application. This is similar to the golden ticket attacks against Kerberos in Microsoft Active Directory. Not much in the way of defense from folks like Microsoft, who say Microsoft does not consider this to be a vulnerability because in order to carry out a golden SAML attack, an adversary must have already compromised a company's network and have gained domain admin access. Boo for Microsoft. That's always their take on vulnerabilities. It's, well, you form your own opinions. Mine is boo. Uber reportedly paid hackers $100,000 to keep their data breach quiet. So in the wake of the holiday, this whole Uber data breach came about, and last week it was discovered that a 2016 Uber data breach resulted in the theft of 57 million records, including passengers and drivers' names, email addresses, and phone numbers. According to reports, here's how it happened. Two attackers accessed a private GitHub code site used by Uber software engineers and then used login credentials they obtained there to access data stored on an Amazon Web Services account that handled computing tasks for the company. From there, the hackers discovered an archive of rider and driver information. Later, they emailed Uber asking for money, according to the company. Further reports. So if that's not bad enough, and as to how that whole attack unfolded, further reports have stated that Uber paid hackers $100,000 to delete the data and keep the breach quiet. Not necessarily the best breach disclosure or non-disclosure policy coming from our friends at Uber. Or maybe not friends. I'm not sure. I've met some nice Uber drivers over the years. Anyway, open source name server is used by millions, needs some patching. The LREG reports open source DNS software vendor PowerDNS has advised users to patch its authoritative and recursor products to squash 5 bugs disclosed today, which was probably previous to today. None of the bugs pose a risk that PowerDNS itself to be compromised, but this is in DNS. What an attacker can do is fool around with DNS records in various ways. So if you're running PowerDNS, time to get patching. A new Moriah botnet variant found targeting Zyxel devices in Argentina. No word on how large this botnet has become. However, targeted port scans were noticed on ports 2323 and 23 TCP. We're actively looking for vulnerable internet-connected devices manufactured by, you guessed it, Zyxel Communications. Using 2 default telnet credentials, which happen to be admin CenturyLink, capital C, capital L, and admin Quest modem. There's some capitalization in there as well. They use those credentials to gain root privileges on targeted devices. Facebook paid out a $10,000 bug bounty because a developer found a way to delete photos in rigs and polls. Security researcher discovered an interesting way to delete these images from other people's Facebook accounts using a flaw that, and I quote, allowed him to preview pictures uploaded online by strangers and add them to a poll, and when he deleted the poll, the attached images were permanently deleted from the social network as well. Facebook fixed this bug and rolled it out in the span of 2 days. Good response. And that's the news for this week. We're going to take a very quick break and run some commercials, and then talk with Michael Santarcangelo. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason. Disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Welcome back to Hack Naked News. Got another webcast for you with myself and Larry Pesci. We're going to talk about wireless insecurity and security. Paul Padgett is going to join us from Pony Express and talk about the Pwn Pulse, which we actually have running here in the studio now, which is really cool. And we can detect everyone's wireless networks as far as we can tell now. It was kind of funny. Kyle came in and said, I think it's configured wrong. He's like, I can see everyone's wireless networks within like a mile radius of the building. I'm like, nope, it's working as designed. So you'll hear Larry and I's analysis and how we're using Pwn Pulse to monitor the airwaves and how you can too in your enterprise. Go to securityweekly.com/pony and register today. That webcast is happening on December 7th. Michael Santarcangelo is here with us. Michael, welcome to Hack Naked News. Kind of on the other side. I'm in the news seat, and you're in the expert commentary seat. It's awesome. Maybe next time we can reverse roles, and you can read all. I
like it when the bar is set low. Yeah, set the bar lower for me. We have Michael. He's just going to read stories.
Now you're an expert. Now you've always been an expert.
I don't know about that.
Author of Into the Breach and communications expert Michael Santarcangelo is with us.
Jeez, I need you to do more introductions. You know what? Every time now I apply to go to one of these conferences and ask for special instructions, Paul has to introduce.
I'll give you the recording and you can just play it. Yeah, they'll just play it over the loudspeaker. And now,
I think it's better that way. Well, so here's what I picked out. It's this whole topic of voting and voting insecurity. It's not a new topic. It just caught some new life over the last couple days. And I saw a story last week that kind of got me turning on it a little bit. And I'm going to sidestep the politics because I actually don't care who it was, but there's a non-sanctioned committee in the House that said, hey, we got like $400 million left over from this thing that we said we were going to do in 2002. You know what we should do with that money? We should spend that money to better secure our future elections. Because what? The Russians. I mean, yeah, there's no evidence that they've done anything, but they could, and hackers are out there, and it's all really bad, and there's just a lot of outdated stuff out there, and $400 million, we could buy a lot of new technology that we don't understand, but hey, at least we did something for it. So it's just kind of like, I was looking at it just kind of maddening because this is the cycle we keep seeing. What's the problem? Well, it could get hacked. I don't know what that means, right? I mean, we say all these types of things. Now, in this same article,
Michael,
though.
I just want to address your first point because I think it's really funny. That the number, as you pointed out in your write-up, like it's very arbitrary because, well, that's just what we had left over, right? And I kind of think of it when you do a landscaping project and then you start to move on to the next one and you realize that there's a pile of rocks over there that from your previous landscaping project and you're like, well, I could use those maybe in my new landscaping project, but it's never quite right. Like you either have too many and you still have some left over or you don't have just enough and you can't go get new ones that match the ones you had, so you end up with this hodgepodge. And I feel like that's what they did when they said, "Oh, we have $100 million. Let's just go buy some stuff to secure elections," with no plan in place to say what is the problem they're trying to solve. More importantly,
right? Yeah, or how much you would really need. I mean, without looking at it, is that overkill or is that not even scratching it, or is it perfect? Is it ideal? You're right though. That landscaping is how much mulch do you need? I don't know. I never seem to get enough. But again, their proposal is just, it's kind of fascinating because they came out and said, well, this shows we're going to do something. It's not just words. We're going to put money where our mouth is. Really? What are you going to do? We're going to buy new technology. Great. Which technology are you going to buy?
And why?
And why? Yeah. Geez, it feels like we've done this before, Paul. We got the same questions. And so and then of course it was, and the Russians tried to hack our elections. All right. So there's two parts to this. First, there's no evidence that they actually did anything. Second, so what? This is what governments do. Governments have tried to subvert other governments for years. There's a popular show on FX all about that and what the Russians did in the 80s. I think the Americans is fun TV, which is odd because we've never talked about that. But, this isn't new, and therefore I shouldn't be surprised because it's not new that we're going to use a foreign government as the boogeyman, that we need to do something right now. But really? I mean, now that said, and I didn't put this in the show notes, and I don't know if you ever talked to him, but early in our podcasting careers, before we joined forces, I talked to a company called Punch Scan. That was I want to say it was, well, I'll just leave it as broad as Canada because I can't remember off the top of my head where they were, but it was a bunch of students, crypto students, and they figured out a way to essentially, you could run it on anything you wanted. The underlying security of the software of the platform didn't matter. They could still give you integrity. And the really cool part, as I'm remembering it, was, Paul, you could vote, and it was an optical scanner. So you could leave with a record of your vote, and you could go back and you could audit that the vote captured for you was in fact what you voted for. So they would know that you voted, Paul, but they wouldn't know who you voted for, even though the system could tabulate it. I mean, it's big level math. And I actually just happened to look them up right before the show, and I'm excited because they released what they did as open source software. They said, look, this is more important, and voting really matters. Here you go. And I didn't know about this company. I'm going to learn more about them. But there's a company called Scantegrity, and PunchScan is now part of that, and it allows people to do. They can add it. Well, here, election officials can use Scantegrity as a standalone system or an add-on to provide a low-footprint audit companion solution for any current optical scan voting system. Gosh, we should bring them on our other program and help them with that out a little bit. But here's the point. We have solutions, Paul. We have solutions that if we're really concerned about the security of our voting systems, and we're really concerned about the ability to audit them and to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, not just in the U.S., but around the world, there's some really cool systems. And I've never really seemed to see somebody say, hey, so we could use all the current stuff we have, and we could do this and make a big difference. Let's do that. And I hate being the guy who sounds cynical, but there's not a lot of money in that if you're a politician. Whereas the lobbying folks, they've got a new system to sell you. How much you got? 400 million? Oh, let me tell you the systems I can sell you for that.
Right.
Now, at the same time, because these things are only useful if you put it together, this was a bipartisan effort, but again, don't really care. Cybersecurity campaign playbook. And this actually had some good ideas. Now, they're good ideas. It's the kind of things that when you say them, they sound really good. But then when you say, well, how do we implement that? It's like, yeah. Now, to be fair, I'll go take a look at it. But here's what they said, and the two that stood out to me. Go use proven stuff. Don't create your own databases. Don't create your own systems of synchronizing them and everything else. There's plenty of cloud options out there. There are good ones. Just use that. It's going to be better. I feel like that's an adage in security that hasn't really changed. If somebody else figured it out and they're good, use that. Don't try to create your own. They spend a lot of time and money and effort trying to get that done. And then they said, use MFA, which is great. But again, what does that mean? Here's what they pointed out, though, and this is why I thought it's interesting. They said, look, campaigns are targets. Why? They collect really cool info. They staff up really quickly, and then they scale up massively, and then they kind of go away. How many times have we seen that in the enterprise? Exact same thing, right? People scale up. There's data all over the place. So I think that the point is, stop wasting money on tech you don't need. Start figuring out what the problems are you want to solve, and then apply what you need in order to get that done. And this is where a lot of times we talk on this programs or our programs. This is where the industry, the community can come together. This is something I think that benefits everybody, and I think there's a lot of really good solutions out there. And I think that's our opportunity. Try to end on a positive note.
And I think, too, that the problem, the security and integrity of the voting machine, while it's the issue that always is usually talked about in this context, I should say usually talked about in this context, it's one aspect of security. Making sure that the candidates and parties and representatives and those running, that their email accounts don't get hacked. That's probably part of, helping America Vote Act, right, is putting some integrity behind the systems that are supporting the people who are involved in the election. And then there's the whole Facebook thing where the Russians were supposedly taking out ads. Now, I think if you do the math on the Russians taking out ads on Facebook, didn't really sway the election, but we should be looking at more than just the security of the voting machines and some of these other aspects as well. If we want to preserve, essentially, it's preserving the integrity of votes in the country.
I think you raise a great point. And I think that's even a great place to end it is that if we just focus on the machine, we're kind of missing the whole part of the process. And each of those processes has things that we can do. And I really don't like suggesting that they're basics. It's the basics. If you did the basics,
I don't like that
there's
either.
nothing that's basic. You and I could go through a list of basics every week for the next year, and we'd never overlap. But I think calling some attention to it, at least to being able to say, hey, do you know what you're doing? And do you have the right solution to solve that problem? I think that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everyone, for listening and watching this edition of Hack Naked News. See you next time.